Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Aaron Hilliard. Welcome to Mushroom Wonderland. Me and my dog Loki are going to go out and find some morel mushrooms growing in the woods. We're also going to find another edible species of mushroom that's related to morels. This one is the snowbank morel, or the Gyromitra montana. So make sure to come with me on this episode, hit subscribe, and let me show you what it looks like to go foraging in the woods for wild morel mushrooms.
Welcome to Mushroom Wonderland.
All right, so this is a beautiful choice Morchella snyderi. So this is the one that grows naturally on the east side of the Cascade Mountains. So if you're anywhere from British Columbia down to Northern California, and so a beautiful choice morel. If you look at the base, it's not exactly hollow. It's very crowded at the very base. White stem, and this one, beautiful black ridges, kind of tan colored and rounded. This is really fresh. This is the first mushroom of the day, so I think we're in for a good time. If we look right here at this mushroom, growing in the same forest as the good morels. This one, Gyromitra esculenta, it's covered in spores right now. You can see that. It's actually a really beautiful mushroom. They can kind of look like a brain or something like that. These dark maroon colored ones with the light stems, these ones Gyromitra esculenta group, and they can be known to be deadly poisonous if eaten raw. So definitely look out for your false morels. This is a beautiful example of one. They can be detoxified by parboiling them a couple of times with the windows open, but kind of a lengthy process, probably not worth it. I would definitely say avoid these ones, the false morel or Gyromitra esculenta. Ooh, look at that. I spy a beautiful morel. This one, the snyderi. Oh, there's another one right there. Beautiful mushroom. So I should clarify that these Morchella snyderi prefer montane forests. So up here in the mountains, these are true fir trees. There's several types of morels. There's landscape morels that grow in your garden and your flower beds and on construction sites and stuff like that, and compost piles. Those are kind of your cosmopolitan urban morels. These ones out here are montane. They like it in the mountains. They like it cold. They like it moist. And they prefer it here on the east side of the Cascade Mountains. So you're not going to be finding these in the lowlands of Western Washington or Western Oregon or California. These are a montane species, and they prefer the east side crest of the Cascade. This young one sprouting. It's beautiful. They're so young and perfect right now. All right, we're getting a few in the basket. This is about 30 minutes of hiking, so yeah, it's a bit of a workout. So bring your hiking legs if you want to pick natural morels. A lot of the time you got to be hiking, scrambling, climbing. Beautiful. So I like these kind of areas where there's a little bit of openness, but grass, you know, grass is a good indicator of moisture. So when you see greenery on the ground, that's a great indicator of a good amount of moisture for mushrooms to be growing. So I like these areas. I'm drawn towards these areas that are like green and meadowy because it's usually where I find these natural Snyderi morels. And it really helps that the brush is low in this area because you can really see everything very pretty easily. But man, these things got a way of blending in. So if you're going too fast, it's easy to overlook them. But if you're going too slow, you might just be wasting your time in an area that doesn't have morels. So you're kind of like got to find that sweet medium where you're still moving, you're passing through the areas where there's no mushrooms. Areas like this, I stop and get a nice vantage point, see if anything's popping out that catches my eyes. And then I just kind of go where the force takes me, you know. It's sort of guiding me this way. And I'm slowly just scanning. Beautiful. So when you see these orange cups popping up, you see this is a little cup. This is called an ascomycete, related to morels. And these are a good sign that morels are probably in the area. And there's quite a fruiting of them right here. These are a good sign that there's the right moisture and temperature for ascos to be growing. So asco is short for ascomycete, and morels are ascomycete. So when you see these kind of cup fungi, it can be a good indicator that you're in the right sort of forest. So a couple things I should note. When I first stepped into the woods, I was finding morels just like right where I parked, basically. And I've gone uphill from there and have been finding less and less morels. So I'm probably 500 feet higher than I was when I first found them near the truck. And those ones were really young and fresh. So what I think has happened is I'm too high up in the elevation right now. I need to go back downhill. So I'm starting near the edge of this creek. I'm gonna work my way just kind of within 100 feet of the creek edge, looking for the areas where there's a lot of moisture. And, you know, I'll probably find one or two here or there, but I have this suspicion that if I keep going down in elevation, maybe 500 feet lower than where I started and was finding these young ones, that they might just be everywhere. Seeing some other fungi here. So good sign, you know, to see mushrooms. What do you think, Loke? He's having a good old time. Don't worry, Gunner's not retired. He's staying home with the wife who's sick. And so he's going to stay and be a comfort dog today. He's very good at that. We got a few, you know, enough for a steak dinner. One thing that's probably worth talking about is the main tree around here is true fir or grand fir in the genus Abies. So on the west side, we have mainly Douglas fir, and there is some of that here. But these morels, you know, if they are truly mycorrhizal, which it said that they're facultatively mycorrhizal, that means that they can live with trees, but they don't necessarily have to. But these trees always seem to be where they're growing under. So grand fir, it's got flat needles, you see that? It's flat, where a Douglas fir, it's like a barrel brush. And you don't see cones hanging on these because they grow at the top of the tree and then flake away. So unless a limb breaks or something, you just never see the cones to these guys. They make beautiful Christmas trees, but they also are a good host for Morchella snyderi. All right, I'm looking at the grand fir, just giving you a little tutorial. And as I look down right by my foot, what do we have but 2 young Morchella snyderi? So how perfectly was that? Just right next to these trees. But you see how young they are? These have just come up in the past few days. And so, you know, as we go down in elevation, I think we're gonna find more, but whenever I see a couple like this, that's when I slow down and really kind of look around closely. These are my flags. They're indicating to me that we're in Morel territory. Right here I came across some mushrooms growing down here in the pine needle duff. And when I pull one up, I see that really rusty orange spore color on the gills there. And it's also on the stem right here. It just looks really rusty underneath. And this is indicative of a Cortinaria. So this is one of the Cortinarias that grow around here. A couple hundred different species just in Washington alone. I mean, it's a huge genus of mushrooms. I'm probably even underselling it with a couple hundred. But, you know, these grow in association with the trees, a good sign of moisture and fungal life, which is nice. They recur back every year. So Cortinaria is typically a genus you do not want to be eating. And so these ones we'll leave behind, but kind of nice to see gilled mushrooms growing out here in the spring. Oh, wow. So this is really cool. I'm happy to have stumbled upon these right now. These are a neat mushroom. So these mushrooms right here are really cool, and they're related to the false morel or your Gyromitra esculenta that we looked at, but this one is known as the snowbank morel or Gyromitra montana. So this one's said to be a decent edible. This one's a little bit past its prime, but this other one that's coming up, just coming out of the ground, they're also called snowbank morels or calf brains. And you see that, it's actually really pretty. This one may or may not contain small amounts of hydrazines of gyromitrin, but it's easily cooked off, and people have been eating these for eons. And so these are considered to be a good edible. Just make sure, just like morels, just cook them. You know, with morels, you want to treat them like chicken and make sure they're fully cooked. And same as Gyromitra montana, which I think are really cool. So I'm going to spend some time to kind of clean up the dirt off of these, but I'm definitely taking these with. And I'm excited to see those snowbank morels. That means the snow was here not very long ago. And so we're pretty high in elevation, and another indicator that maybe it's too cold for the morels yet. If we still have snowbank morels popping up, it's probably too cold for true morels. Even though we're finding some here and there that are getting through, I still think it's a good idea to head downhill, but these are coming with me in the basket for sure. So I'm going to clean these up a little bit just by cutting that dirty base off of there. Get down to where it's pretty fresh, but you can see it's really full of stuff. It's not hollow like a Morchella. So let me show you the cross section of the Morel. Now these ones they don't have a very large cavity in them. That's one thing about the snyderi. You see that? Pretty small cavity, but definitely hollow. Whereas these guys, when I cut it right in half, definitely not hollow in the center. So, you know, this is one of the false morels, but I'd prefer to call it a snowbank morel because false morel should be just reserved for Gyromitra esculenta. These ones are good edible. Another mushroom that pops up sometimes commonly with these natural morels or the Verpa conica or the little thimble morel. And they're very fragile, and I haven't seen any here today, but I'll often find them in the same exact habitat as I find these morels. And supposedly they're good to eat too, but they're just so dang fragile that if you try to pick it and put it in your basket, it falls apart like a piece of brittle chalk. It's really weird. So I'm standing up here on this hillside, And as I look down into the little valley down here, I think I see one. So getting up on a high point, getting up on a high point can really be helpful. And also, if you're climbing uphill, there's the whole thing. If you're climbing uphill, it can sometimes be easier to get eye level with the mushrooms. But I like to get on a high vantage point, and then I can really kind of look around. Also, when I squat down to pick one, this is when I'm kind of on the profile level of the mushroom. So I'm just gonna scan around carefully while I'm here. But that's one thing about these ones. They often just grow all by themselves. And so sometimes you get lucky and you find several together. But more often than not, it's just gonna be a random one like that. Oh, look right there. I'm telling you, down here in the riverbeds is a good place to look. Because there's another one right there. So, beautiful little morels. But they're maybe easier to see too when you're down here in the riverbeds. But this is where all the moisture accumulates. Seems to be a pretty good place to be finding them. Yeah, he's a truffle dog, and yes, they can be trained to find morels too, but we haven't really taken the time to do that. But dogs can sniff out whatever you want them to, whatever you train them to, and give them a reward system. And he could definitely be finding these morels for me. But what fun is that, What fun is that? I like to stumble around for miles through the woods for a couple handfuls of mushrooms. That's what I came here to do, okay? So I don't need no dog helping me out. Oh, there's a pretty Fomitopsis species growing off the end of this log here. Those are pretty common in the Northwest. These ones gobbling up the cellulose inside these logs, helping break this stuff down so that it's a somewhat navigable forest. All right, so I've got some mushrooms, but it's been 2.2 miles in 2 hours that I've been out here, and I found just that many. I guess about 15 mushrooms. So this truly is a labor of love. I rarely have better luck than this. I mean, it's like a mushroom here and a mushroom there, but like if you're going out hoping to commercially pick and sell Snyderi, these montane natural morels, good luck, man. Maybe you know where the super sweet honey hole is, but my typical experience is it's just kind of one here, one there, and it definitely is. You got to work for your meal. So these ones typically aren't sold on the commercial market just because it's too hard to gather enough, while they'll all still be fresh at the same time to really make it lucrative. So they're really it's kind of a novelty, which makes them one of the better tasting morels, in my opinion. Wow, that's a nice one. Look at that black morel. That's a picture perfect Snyderi going in the basket. I like that. So as I'm getting lower in elevation, they're starting to show up more frequently and bigger, I think. So stoked to find mushrooms like that. That is a prime mushroom right there. Wow, awesome. Let's keep looking, buddy. But they're tricky. I mean, you could step right over one and not know it was there. Probably do it all day long. I hate to know how many I passed. One time I heard that if you're a bad mushroom picker and you're disrespectful to the land, that when you get to hell, they're going to show you every mushroom that you ever walked past and missed, and it's going to torture you forever. Look at this one kind of growing out of the grass. Beautiful. I don't want any dirt going in my basket, so I get them pretty clean. Another snowbank morel. That's a really pretty one. Definitely going in the basket with us. Oof, look at that ant's nest. You do not want to be tussling with them. Those guys bite big time. They're liking that sunshine. So me and Loki are finishing up our salami and Swiss sandwich. Gonna start headed back up towards the truck. And as the saying goes, you always find your biggest mushroom on the way back to the truck. So hopefully that stands true. Two nice mushrooms right here. See that? Kind of hiding underground a little bit. Those are gorgeous. So I'll cut the stems here. And then I saw another one coming up right here. So boy, they really blend into the ground. It helps to slow down and get low to really be able to spot these. They're hiding. Tell you what, the terrain out here on the east side of the Cascades can be pretty brutal. It could be very steep, a lot of deadfall, but the nice thing is there's not a ton of brush, and I'm used to a lot of brush being on the west side of the Cascades. So the brushless nature of eastern Washington, I love that. Hey you guys, so we got an awesome basket full of delicious mushrooms. It was a lot of work, you know, this is a labor of love. This isn't a commercial picking venture. I'm just going out for the day to gather mushrooms for the dinner table. So now we're gonna go home and I'm gonna show you how I prepare these morels, and we're gonna have a delicious meal. So let's go to the kitchen, come on. All right, so I'm back home with my morels, and now I'm gonna clean them out a little bit and rinse them off, and I'm gonna show you how I cook these, very simply to go alongside a steak. Just give them a quick rinse to get the dust and any kind of little bugs off the outside. But these are so fresh and young that they really don't need a lot of cleaning. Basically going to cut these into halves, or if they're a little bit bigger, cut them into quarters. Alright, so I got a pan that's pretty hot, and I'm actually going to add in just like a little bit of grapeseed oil. It's kind of a neutral oil that has a high burning point, and I'm going to add the mushrooms in to that. And the oil is really just to keep things from burning on the pan. But what's going to happen is these morels are going to sweat out a ton of moisture, and we're going to let all that moisture reduce away before we add any butter. So you see that after a few minutes, just a lot of water coming out of these. So even though they seem really dry, when you pick them, they have a lot of water in them. So you want to dry saute this water out of here, they call it. Even though I add a little bit of oil, we're just going to get all of this moisture evaporated off before the caramelization process can take place. Not a lot of moisture in these ones, so it burned away pretty quickly, and the pan is getting nice and dry. It's about time to add in some butter, some salt, and a little bit of shaved red onion just for flavor. Now that all that water has evaporated, we're going to let these just get that nice golden brown color in the butter. I'm also going to add in some shaved red onion just for a little flavor, a little bit of sea salt, a little bit of black pepper. So by the time these morels have cooked all their water off and have sauteed in the butter long enough to start getting golden brown, you know they've cooked plenty long enough. Just make sure to cook your mushrooms well done. You know, treat them as if they were chicken because they do contain some toxins that break down when they're cooked. But you just want to make sure that they're well cooked. So by the time you do this whole process, they'll be just perfect. All right, so after a long day of foraging for morels in the woods, there's nothing better to me than a steak dinner with fried morels. So I'm excited to eat. I'm gonna get to work on this. So thanks for joining that episode. Make sure to hit subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Much love, everyone.